How often do you hear the word Islamophobia? Now, how many times do you hear the word Hinduphobia? Surely, you've heard Islamophobia more often. Have you ever been called an Islamophobe? The word is thrown at all non-Muslims like a casual tag. That is because Islamophobia is by and large recognized by the world as a problem. But what about hatred against Hindus? What about hatred against Sikhs? What about hatred against Buddhists and Jains? Well, India is working to address the inequality. It is pushing the United Nations to recognize that these communities are victims of hate as well. And welcome. You're watching TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm the group founder, Atul Mishra, and in this video, I will tell you why India is aggressively pushing the UN to recognize hate against Hindus and other Indic minorities. Let's begin. India has spoken against woke culture. India has spoken against the global Islamist and liberal lobby that seeks to associate right-wing ideologies with those of violent extremism and domestic terrorism. India has spoken against the Democrat-led United States of America and its lackey forces around the world. India has spoken hard and has hit the nail on the head this time. For many months now, we at TFI have been urging the Indian government to learn to deal with woke culture from France. The government seems to have taken the cue, and India's message to the world is loud and clear. India has called on the United Nations to recognize Hinduphobia along with other acts of religious hatred against Sikhism and Buddhism. India's UN envoy, T.S. Tirumurti, said that the UN's latest global counterterrorism strategy passed last year is full of flaws and is selective and could reverse gains from the global consensus in the war of terror post 9/11. Hinduphobia is real. Hatred for Hindus is a phenomenon that in India at least requires no introduction. Many from a particular community feel a seething sense of disgust for Hindus. Given this particular community's rather large share in global demography, Hinduphobia has also become an international problem. Hindus are being made victims of hate crimes and racial slurs around the world, particularly in the West. The same is the case with Sikhs and all other Indic minorities. They are all falling prey to the hate of either Islamists or xenophobes of all kinds. In India, the anti-Hindu Delhi riots of 2019 are glaring examples of how many wish to cause grave damage to Hindus. Now, if India does not speak for Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists and Jains, who will? The good thing is that India has found its voice. India's UN envoy T.S. Tirumurti said in the past 2 years, several member states driven by their political, religious and other motivations have been trying to label terrorism into categories such as racially and ethnically motivated, violent extremism, violent nationalism, right-wing extremism, etc. This tendency is dangerous for several reasons. Next, Tirumurti, speaking as India's representative to the United Nations, raised a very important point. He said that only religious phobias against Abrahamic religions, that is Islam, Christianity and Judaism, had been named in the Global Counter-Terrorism Strategy's 7th review passed by the UN General Assembly in June 2021. He added, the emergence of contemporary forms of religiophobia, especially anti-Hindu, anti-Buddhist and anti-Sikh phobias, is a matter of serious concern and needs attention of the UN and all member states to address this threat. And in a scathing indictment of Western media's coverage of India and its right-wing government, Tirumurti said that putting labels to so-called threats was misleading and erroneous. It has increasingly become the norm that when someone talks about Hinduphobia, they are given sermons that it is not even real, even while several incidents prove otherwise. By pushing the United Nations to recognize Hinduphobia as a hateful ideology, and by getting it to accept that there exists a palpable sense of hatred for many Sikhs and Buddhists too, India is making a mark for itself in the ideological space of the world. India is now setting the agenda. For far too long, world leaders, activists, and the United Nations too have occupied themselves with trying to contain Islamophobia. In the process, Indic communities have suffered and their pain has largely gone unnoticed. India is drawing the world's attention to the struggles of Hindus, Sikhs and Buddhists, and all countries will be well advised to sit up straight and take notes.